So as soon as we started talking, like I can't get it out of my head. So I was looking at your Instagram and
Yeah.
I saw that you're a Recording Academy invitee.
Yeah. So
That
now
is absolutely incredible. Like,
so now I'm like the voting member of the Academy, which is pretty exciting. That's just, there's kind of like an application process, but you have to meet certain requirements and, you submit your information and then I guess, they don't necessarily let you in, like it's not automatic if you have, even if you have the requirements. So that was pretty nice boost during this time when there's not a lot going
yes,
on.
that is amazing. That's so cool.
And I had actually like intended to join last year, but they changed the dates, and so like I was expecting to like submit, and then when I checked, like the submission deadline had passed because they switched like their whole way of doing things. So I was like really bummed out because last year I had wanted to submit my new record, but then you don't have to be a member to have your like work submitted. So
Mm-hmm.
some other colleagues of mine submitted my record, which was really nice. So it was on like the first round ballot, but I didn't, obviously didn't win the Grammy or anything. didn't get to be a nominee. But
honestly, like even just like what's the word? Just the like being in cahoots is just like as a
being a
musician,
part
like
of
you
it.
see that it's like, wow, that's amazing.
And it was actually really fun to be sort of like a part of the process because, as part of the process of sort of trying to get nominated, you share your music with all kinds of different people. So I ended up connecting with a lot of people like across genres of music by email mostly. And it was really like just nice, like people really listen to your stuff. And so like you get nice feedback from people and connect with different people from around the world. So that was really fun. And then I did go to LA for Grammy weekend. And I didn't actually attend the ceremony because the like tickets are super expensive. And I was like, I wasn't sure if I wasn't like a nominee or anything. So I was like, let me just go and sort of be a part of it. And so there was like this group that I joined, and actually you might be interested because it's for like any genre, called the Indie Collaborative.
Okay.
And they have this like very active Facebook group, and it's a nice group of indie musicians. And if you look it up, it's probably like indiecollaborative.com or .org. And so they put on a couple of showcases. There was one that was like this big one at a theater that I attended. I didn't participate in. And then there was another one that was like at this restaurant that I got to participate in. So that was really fun to get to play for people and see people's reaction, and people really liked the performance. I actually posted those. I did 2 songs and I posted those on my YouTube channel, so that was fun. And like you could even hear like it's for all these grown-ups, but typically I play for kids, so I usually have like an interactive component of my songs. Right. So there was like a little clap along part, and I was like, I don't know if they're gonna like clap along or if they're gonna be, just chatting amongst themselves or whatever. But everybody like, I got them engaged, and they all did it. It was great. So it was super fun.
I couldn't imagine being there and not, because like when I was listening to her music, I was like, oh my God, this is incredible. Like, because it gave me like, it makes you feel like you're a kid. Like, that's great. And so I feel like, if I was there, I'd be losing my mind.
Well, it
I'd
was
be
funny.
acting like I was 5 years old.
Yay. Well, it's usually I feel like it is pretty engaging stuff, but like at this particular event, I was like one of the last ones to perform partially because I'm new, like they didn't know if it was going to be like good or not. Right, yeah. So they kind of stuck me like near the end, and everybody was happy to see each other. So there was a lot of chatting going on, and people are kind of like moving out into like the lobby behind. And, some of the acts before me were starting to like lose attention of the crowd. And then when I started to play, like people started to come back into the room, and everybody was like participating and listening and clapping and stuff. So that was really like, that was a really cool moment. Awesome. And it was just nice to like get to like sort of show what you can do to other people who are, in the industry and appreciate it. And, are also like going for the same things. And, you know, so that that was a really nice way to connect with people. So some of whom I had, you know, already corresponded with, but then you get to actually like meet them face to face. So that
Yes.
was fun.
Yes. And that's what this project has been really great for me about, is like being able to connect with different types of artists. And I think like seeing your music in like comparison to the other stuff, you know, like me, I'm an emo kid. I'm an MCR Linkin Park type of person. So, you know, and you know, listening to other people's music, and like for listening to yours, it was just kind of like, man, I just needed like, I can't think of any other word than like brain bleach. Just like, you know, just kind of get the negative feelings out for a moment. Just like listen to some like Kindy. Like I love it.
Yeah. Well, and that's, you know, sort of my thing is I kind of think about the messages that are going along with it, and, you know, how I want the audience to feel good and maybe learn something and have fun, and, you know, just to kind of have like a positive experience. So that's, you know, kind of the name Positrons kind of embodies that a little bit. And I, you know, like I want people to feel good and have a good time, and, you know, connect with other, you know, connect with maybe their family, like if it's a kid and they're grown up, or their siblings, and, you know, just have a nice experience together and come away feeling good about yourself. So
absolutely. Because I used to be, well, a couple summers I did summer camp counseling.
Nice.
And you know, for me, I was always the type of person, like, I don't really like the little kids. I like the
the older ones.
12 to 14 who are just a little bit jaded, you know.
Yep.
They're fun, but like I like think of the times where like we would bring in a, you know, like one of those,
like an outside artist.
yeah, like one of those people who come and they do like the little thing with the parachutes, or they bring like scooters and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like transported back to the time where I would try to be super active so that the kids would also be trying to be super active.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it just brings a smile to my face, because like, it's, you know, it's just, it, like you said, like it makes me feel good. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
So I also wanted to ask you about like, so, you know, in reading all of your stuff.
Yes.
Cognitive neuroscience?
Yes. Yeah. So that's my like educational background. It's studying the brain and basically like looking at what the brain is doing while you're thinking. So I used to do some brain imaging work, and I find that stuff still really fascinating, but kind of like got away from that because I wasn't sure that I wanted to go and get my PhD. I was in a PhD program, so I decided to leave with my master's and take a little break from it, and I haven't gone back to it. And then in the meantime, you know, like I ended up having kids, and so once I had my eldest, my daughter, you know, I've been singing my whole life, and at the time I was doing my grad work, and I was sort of experimenting with jazz and blues, and I used to go to like, you know, some of the clubs around here when I moved to DC. I used to live in Boston before this, and was in Missouri before that, and so kind of popped around the country, and then I've been in DC for a long while. But when I moved to DC, I went to like HR 57. I don't know if you know that club. They used to do open mics like every Wednesday night or something.
I'm not much of a DC person because I'm from Northern Virginia, so we're scared of
well, I think it's closed now. I think it's no longer exists, but I used to go there, and I met some like really fascinating people. Like there was a saxophone player who was probably in his 80s or 70s or 80s.
Goodness.
Who you know, I you know, they call you up on stage, and, you know, you play with whoever's there. So I got to perform with him, and then was chatting with him at different times. And he used to play in New York with like some of the jazz greats, and he performed with like Dinah Washington, and I think he performed with Thelonious Monk, if I remember correctly. Like he performed with like some of these like amazing like titans of jazz, which is like way cool. So so that was fun. But then, you know, like I got pregnant with my daughter, and at the time you could still smoke inside like clubs and restaurants. And so I was like, I didn't want to be like breathing in secondhand smoke. So I just kind of stopped going to any of those places. And then, you know, once my daughter was born, I started, you know, singing to her all the time. And so some of these kid songs sort of like, you know, I just started making up some of these songs for kids. Awesome. So the first one I think was there's a song on my first record called Spinach and Carrots. Mm-hmm. And if you listen to that, like it's very jazzy because that's sort of like what was in my head at the time. And then the other songs for that first record came, you know, like my middle one was very close in age to my daughter. So mm-hmm. he's only 20 months younger. So I had two little ones before very long. And, you know, that time goes by very quickly. It's like very busy. And, but once he was in preschool, you know, he have all these like, kids have like all these like amazing observations and questions. And mm-hmm. So he, you know, one day he came home and he was like talking about penguins, and some, you know, kid in the class was really interested in penguins. So they started doing a little penguin unit, and he'd come home and have all these like facts and say, you know, did you know I'm almost as tall as an emperor penguin, and the littlest penguin is the little blue, and, you know, blah, blah, blah. And he'd have all these different facts. So that ended up becoming the Penguin song, which is also on that first record. And that's, I would say, like probably the most popular song on that record. It gets a lot of attention, and you know, that it came out of this like funny questions and conversation. So a lot of those, a lot of my songs have come from kid questions and conversations or ideas that, you know, kind of end up like turning into a song. So
that's awesome. That's so great how like you have like that family connection there.
Yeah.
And like you can have those connections with the songs.
Absolutely.
And you know, like we were saying, like the positive connections with it. Because, you know, for me, I have songs that are based on my life. Like so yeah, I think that's really awesome. So how do your and I ask this, you know, as someone with a mom.
Yeah.
So how do your older kids feel about your music?
I mean, I think they still like it, and they're still proud of it. They're probably, you know, they're not like going to share it on Instagram with all of their friends, but
which they should, just like a little share on the story. That's all you need.
Right. Maybe like TikTok, and then we could have a little viral thing going. Yeah,
that'd be cute.
Right? Maybe we could do that. But they, you know, I think they're proud of it. You know, like I think they see that, you know, how people react to it, and I think they're happy. You know, even if it's not like their first choice of music, mm-hmm. They all know all the songs. Usually, I try the songs out on my family first and let them hear them. And they, you know, they have a history with some of the songs, right? Because a lot of them mm-hmm. came out of like their questions or conversations or whatever. So I think there's that. And even like for my first record, there's like penguins on the back cover. And my older two helped me draw. We got together with this artist, and we drew those penguins. So like one of them I finally made into a t-shirt. So the one with like, there's a penguin that it's like, I've forgotten the name of the, there's a penguin whose feathers look like hair. And I can't remember the name. Penguin? It's not the emperor penguin. It's, I can't think of the name of the penguin right at this moment, although maybe it'll come to me. But he kind of like made those little feathers, and I just always thought that was like such a funny little penguin. So I made that one into a t-shirt.
I'm looking at it right now. I love this t-shirt.
Yay! Yeah, and he did that one. So now he's, you know, a teenager. And he's proud of that, and actually he's a musical kid now, and he does like musical theater in high school, and has a terrific voice. And my daughter also, she sings well, although she's a little more shy and not as interested in taking center stage. So she does a lot of the stage crew stuff, but she can sing as well.
I was like that too, though. I didn't really get into music until after college. So
oh wow, cool. Yeah, me too.
She's still there. She's still got a chance.
That's right. And it's funny, like one day, you know, she's on the phone like late at night with her friends, and I was like, what, you know, like, you guys are you going to go to bed at all? And I pop in, and she's like, oh, well, we're actually writing a musical. like, what?
Oh my
So
gosh.
she and her friends who are, you know, like a lot of her friends are theater kids, and they, you know, writing a musical. It's like, all right, well, hey, you know, we're making use of our time during the pandemic, so
Oh
go
my
for it.
gosh, that's
I won't
so
complain about the
cool.
hour. You know, so there's that, you know, creative streak there. So I'm glad for
Yeah.
that. And my youngest is 8, and he loves to dance, and he loves music, and he's been around music. Like, it's been even more intense for him because like when he was in utero, I was teaching music classes, and so he was getting sung to all the time. And
Right.
then my first record I actually recorded when I was 9 months pregnant with him.
Wow.
Because I realized at some point, like, you know, during the pregnancy, I was like, if I don't do something with this music now, it's going to be like 5 years before I can
Right.
record. And so it was funny, like one of my good friends from college was getting married, and her wedding date was the same weekend that I was due.
Okay. Oh geez.
So she ended up organizing a bridal shower and bachelorette party in Pittsburgh, and I was like, well, I'm going to make sure and go to that because I'm going to actually miss the wedding, and I don't want to, like, you know, I want to be part of all the, you know, her celebration.
Of course.
And at the bachelorette party, it was at this restaurant, like with this huge table, and it was super loud, so you basically could only talk to like the person next to you. And the person who I happened to sit next to, who I had never met before because she was a friend of hers from, like, I think college or grad school, but we went to different colleges, so I didn't know her at all. And we started chatting, and she's an actress, and she's like, oh, my brother is a musician. I was, you know, we were talking about what we did, and I was like, yeah, you know, like, I want to record a record, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it before I have this baby, whatever, you know, I was already showing at the time. And she's like, oh, my brother is actually a producer too. And he lives in Virginia. So she was the one who connected me to her brother, who ended up producing both of my records. And he's an amazing producer, TJ Lipple, and he's in Northern Virginia still. And so, like, that was like such a serendipitous meeting.
Yes, that is so cool. I love when things just like fall into place like that. That's
right.
awesome.
And when I first like emailed him, you know, she gave me his contact information, and he was actually expecting his first child the same, like my due date and his wife's due date were like 4 days apart.
Oh my gosh.
So when I sort of emailed him, I was like, yeah, I'm actually expecting. And so kind of on a short schedule, and he's like, got it. You know, like, okay, let's meet this date. Let's, you know, like he was like ready to like put it together. And then, you know, when we scheduled the dates, I was like, okay, well, what if, you know, like, what if I go into labor? What if she goes into labor?
Right.
Like, and he's like, you know, we'll work it out. Like, if one of us has to cancel, it's no big deal. You know, like he was like so great about it. And then, you know, it all ended up happening. But when I was practicing for, you know, like, I wanted to be really ready. So I think I was talking about my little guy, my youngest, you know, he was there while I was practicing for like 2 hours a day. He's getting all this, you know, guitar vibrations and hearing all that. And he was there in the studio. And then, you know, when I got my first mixes back, like his first week, when he was like 8 days old or something like that. And I was playing them for my sister who had come to visit, and you know, I'm walking around with the newborn, bouncing him, and you know, they're usually not paying attention to much except themselves at that time. And I played one of the mixes, and he froze, and he was listening, and I was like, wow, he totally recognizes this, you know? So that was way cool. And then, you know, I actually like did my first performance when he was like 3 months old. So, so he's been around it, you know, since he was a tiny baby, and I would, you know, like sort of worked out being able to practice with him, like, you know, in that doorway jumper, and I'd give him a little like instrument to play, like a rattle or something to hold and play along, and he'd bounce along and, you know, bounce to the rhythm. And
that's awesome. Because with some kids, they won't allow it. I know someone who his little 3-year-old, he plays guitar, and his little 3-year-old is like, no guitar, daddy. Like,
yeah, by the time they get to be 3, it's like they don't want to sit and listen. But if you catch him, I mean, I adapted, you know, as he would get older. Like once he was mobile, I sort of set up one of those like those sort of baby gate situations in the living room, and I put him in that with different like engaging toys, and I would stand there and play to him and look at him and sing to him, and you know, so he would play and play with his toys while he was, you know, bopping along to the music. So kind of like involved him so that he would be, you know, still, I would get a little practice time in, and then if I, you know, sometimes I would, you know, have a you know, musician friend come over to play with for a show, you know, like rehearsing for a show, and then it would be like, oh, there's a violin, or there's, you know, a drum, something different to listen to, a bass or whatever. So he would notice and have fun with that. So
that's
you just got to make it work. You gotta like, when you have kids, you have to sort of like weave it all together and do it when you can,
absolutely.
right?
I couldn't imagine. Like,
I mean, and then, you know, like my joke was back in when I was making the first record was that if I don't do it now, it'll be 5 years before I make the next one. And of course, it was like about 5 years, and I was like, I have not like done anything else yet. Yeah. And so I finally, you know, like was, you know, started the conversation with my producer then, and it took a little longer to actually make the record because in the meantime I had formed a band, and like it was going to be a little more of a like a bigger project for the second record. So, you know, it took a little longer to record it. And also by then my producer had 2 kids, you know, so we're juggling everybody's schedules between my band and my producer and you know, my own schedule and figuring it all out. But that was really fun. And that was like a new, that was really great to be able to like work with other musicians and have everybody else's input. And I also did a few collaborations with other people that I had gotten to know over that time in the Kindie world. So that was super fun. And most of those were from a distance. There were a couple of people who I collaborated with who are like in other parts of the country. And then one of the other people that I collaborated with is this guy named Barry Lewis Polisar, who he lives in Maryland, and like not super close to DC, but not that far away. And he was actually able to come into the studio and record. And he, you actually probably know who he is, even if the name is not familiar, from the Juno soundtrack. Okay. He has his song, All I Want Is You. That's his song. Okay. And so he's like, he's been making music for like, I don't know, maybe going on 40 years or something like that. And he's got like a dozen records, and he's an author, and he's sort of like this very, like well-known person. And from that soundtrack, you know, that sort of led him to other, you know, commercial stuff. And he had like a commercial in the Super Bowl and like, you know, all this other stuff. So, and he was so nice to like come to the studio. So we actually, you know, got to record. We had one song that the plan was for us to do that as a duet. It's called Alien in an Ambulance on Positronic, which is the newer record. And when he arrived at the studio, we were like laying down the bass tracks for this other song, Giant and Colossal Squid. And, you know, so we were like, you know, the plan was to finish that up and then move on to this other song. And as we were walking in, I was like, oh, there's this, you know, I was kind of like just talking out loud to myself and saying, oh, there's this dialogue part in this song. And my band, you know, none of my bandmates want to do it because they were all feeling shy. And, and you know, kind of laughed along. And then, you know, he heard, you know, what my bass player was doing. My bass player is amazing. And then, you know, we were about to move on to the other song. He's like, wait a minute, didn't you say there was a dialogue part? Did you want to do that? And I was like, yeah. So then he ended up, we did this, the dialogue part for that song, which is super fun. And that was like, you know, a nice little bonus, just bonus fun time. And then I actually just released a video for that song last week. So, you know, it took a little while to get that out. And then he's a puppet. His voice is a puppet in the, squid puppet in that song. So
that's awesome.
I don't know if you saw that one pop up, but that's, I guess I need to actually add that to my website. I haven't actually posted that on there, so I should do that.
I will. I'm looking it up right this
But
second.
It's, yeah,
I love being in front of my computer.
Yeah, if you go to YouTube, you'll find that. And I'm super excited. That's actually our first video that like is a live action video that features the band, and it's got the fun animation and the puppets and, you know, the lyrics and all that. but it took a little while to get that done for different reasons. The person who filmed it like couldn't continue on the project, and then I had to get those files and figure out somebody who was willing to pick it up. And the person who ended up doing it is the same person who did my video for the Penguin song, but for a while he had stopped doing video stuff because he was doing a different job, and then he like emailed me one day and said, I can do a little video work if you have anything. And I was like, yeah. But then he ended up having different things happening, and it took a while for us to actually get to the point of getting it done. So I was like,
right.
Let me, and it took a little bit of persistence and patience, just to kind of like wait for him to be able to have time and all that. But we finally got it finished and got it out there to the world. So I'm excited about
awesome.
that.
Just and I'm really a little preview. I'm so excited to watch.
Yeah, I feel like it came out really cute, and it's like it sort of shows like I'm glad that we could feature the band, and it's like it's from a time when we could all be together in the same room. But it's like we have a lot of fun together, so I feel like that comes across, and it was fun to make it, and fun to be able to like put that out there. So
that's awesome. So
oh, go ahead. Yeah.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say, and the funny thing is, like when we were recording that, doing we did the live action stuff in one day, and then I came back another day with the filmmaker to do the puppets parts, and that day we also she had like a proper camera setup, so we did all of the photography for the Why Can't You Dance on Jupiter video, which is it's basically like sort of a stop motion animation type thing. And and I had that artwork sort of sitting around done and like waiting to like get somebody who could do that. And we kind of figured out in the process that she had the right equipment. And so we ended up doing that video in that at the same time. And so that came out a while ago, but that was, all part of the same day. It's like, sometimes you can just sort of like get a chunk of work done all at once. So sometimes it's like, it's like there's like waiting, and it can, okay, now do everything. Like, but that's fine, like, so I got that, got that done, and it was nice to be able to put that out too. So and I just added that one has been out for a while on my, like, I have 2 different YouTube channels, because when I first started, my first album was under my name, Marsha Goodman Wood, and then before between the first and the second record, I formed my band, MARSHA and the POSITRONS. So I had a Marsha Goodman Wood channel, and then I added MARSHA and the POSITRONS channel, but I didn't want to take down the old video, so I put the videos from my first channel up on my newer channel. And before I posted the Jupiter one, we also added my like band logo and the little like intro piece that my video person had done for the Giant and Colossal Squid video. So we tried to, make it a little fancier and add all those elements. Right?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yay.
So one question.
Yeah.
So I know you like to like kind of like the jazz and blues type of world. But when you're not doing indie music, what are you listening to?
I usually listen to indie rock.
Okay.
That's sort of, so I mean, well, not usually. There's sort of, I kind of listen to a mix of all kinds of different things, but I tend to listen to like indie rock is sort of my thing, and I feel like that's influenced my songwriting and my style as an artist as well. But then definitely that jazz influence is there, and I love, especially like jazz vocalists. I sort of pay attention to to different jazz vocalists, and love Ella Fitzgerald and Dinah Washington and Billie Holiday and all of the Sarah Vaughan, like so many amazing. I could, I don't want to like go on.
So but I'm gonna show a little bit of myself here. So I'm a huge nerd, love video games and stuff. There's this video game called Persona 5, and all of the music for it, it's got this the Japanese vocalist named Lin Inaizumi.
Okay.
I really recommend you check that music out. I think you
Okay.
would love it.
I'll check it out. I will do that.
It's,
Lynn
it's a little Inaizumi.
Aya Inazumi.
Yeah, but if you just search up Persona 5 Royal music,
Okay.
all of that will
Okay.
come up. And also, all of the music for that series is fantastic, even if you have no idea what in the world is going on.
Tell me the name of it again. I'm going to just write that down and check that out. Yeah.
Persona.
Okay.
5.
Persona 5. And what was the name of that artist again?
Her name is Lyn.
Lyn. Uh-huh.
Inaizumi. INAIZUMI.
Okay.
Yes.
Excellent. I'm going to check that out.
So I think you'll really like that. She has an amazing voice, like just like pretty, pretty, I would say pretty bezzo, but she's got like some really good deep notes. Like she's fantastic.
I love, like, I really enjoy female vocalists. I mean, I think I tend towards like listening to female vocalists. So I love, I feel like, when you could sing along,
yes,
that's always, it makes it more fun. So
absolutely. Cause with guys, it's hard.
Yeah, right.
But not some guys
I listen to all kinds of stuff, but I think my favorites tend to be ones that I can also sing along with.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I have one last question for you.
Yeah.
When you were going to school for cognitive neuroscience, did you because I think I always had like, it'd be really cool to be in a band one day, but like never really did anything about it. Were you kind of in the space where you always knew that you were going to go and do music, or did it just kind of like happen to you once you had your first kid?
I always liked doing music. I always, my friends in high school used to joke that I was going to be like the first singing marine biologist, because at the time I was like more into marine biology, and I've always really liked to sing. And, all through school I did, musical theater and choir and, different musical endeavors. And I loved singing. But, kind of felt like, well, I need to also be, like pursuing some academic stuff. So it was always something that I would kind of do on the side. And, even when I was doing like my, neuroscience work, I would do acting classes and, audition for different things at, college. And,
nice.
There was one musical that I was going to do, although they ended up somehow like losing their funding or something. So that didn't happen, but there were some different things that I did. And I did a little bit of radio as well.
Nice.
I, did like college radio and actually when I was in grad school, I did a little bit of professional radio, like on the weekends. I picked up some like weekend shifts. This was in Missouri, and I happened to be like listening in the lab one day, and like they had some giveaway for, like a gift certificate to a restaurant. I was like, oh, that would be fun. Like I just got married to my husband before I started grad school, and I was like, oh, that'd be fun. So I called in and ended up chatting with the DJ, who happened to be the person in charge of hiring as well.
Oh, wow.
And so like, I think in our conversation, I mentioned that I had done radio somehow. I think because it was like, I wasn't sure if he was recording the conversation or playing it live. And so I waited, and I was like, I kind of let on that I knew like what was going on behind the scenes. And then he ended up hiring me to do some weekend shifts. So I ended up doing that through grad school, and even did like some community theater there. Although my advisors in grad school were like not keen on me doing anything outside of grad school. They were like, this is going to distract you or whatever. So, but I always enjoyed doing creative things at the same time, doing different kinds of things. And, I feel like when you're a creative person, you can't help. You can't not do creative things in some form, because otherwise, you don't feel alive. Right.
Absolutely.
It was kind of always this side thing. And then, when I kind of, like I said, my husband and I, we met in college, and we got married just before I started grad school, and he wasn't exactly sure what he wanted to do at the time. And, I kind of realized, I'm not sure if I want to be in this for like 7 years and go all the way through to a PhD right now. So he ended up pursuing, applying to law school, and I finished up my master's work, and then we ended up moving to Boston. And kind of set aside, the research for a little while. And the day that I sent in my master's thesis, I bought a guitar and started taking guitar lessons. And before that, I hadn't played guitar. I played violin and cello as a kid, and played clarinet.
Everybody starts with violin.
Isn't that interesting?
all the past like interviews that I've done, everybody's mentioned doing violin in elementary school.
Isn't that funny? I think that was more of a thing. I mean, I guess there are still a lot of kids who do that now, but it felt like there were only certain, options, right? That was one of the options. And then I picked up clarinet in middle school, and I used to play like in the band and the marching band and all of that. And then, I kind of, I had started doing a little bit of songwriting in my head. Like, I always liked doing poetry. We would always have, poetry units in English class and that kind of thing. And I always enjoyed writing poetry. And then it was somewhere, I think it was actually when I was coming back from defending my master's thesis, and a song came into my head, and I wrote it down, and kind of had that in mind, and other songs started coming to me like in song form instead of just like as a poem. And so I decided, I'm gonna see if I can learn how to play guitar and do any explore this a little bit. And at the same time, I was also I would go to like open mics and blues jams and stuff like that in the Boston area, and it was alwait's fun, just sort of like playing with different people and seeing how the audience would react. And I was kind of like, oh, it's I'm enjoying this, but they're enjoying it. Like you kind of like I realized, oh, maybe this is something that I could pursue in a more like concrete way, and kind of wanted to just see where it would go. And so here I am. But I hadn't necessarily thought that I would play in a band. I just kind of realized that I liked writing songs and kind of wanted to explore songwriting and just be able to like accompany myself and not always have to get together with someone else to be able to like play covers and things like that. And, so just, that it just sort of grew. And then, having kids, my sort of songwriting, sort of went towards, stuff that kids would enjoy, and just kind of, and I always enjoyed, being around kids, liked babysitting, and I was a camp counselor and all that stuff too. So, I just felt like I connected with kids, and it felt natural. So, just I feel like you kind of write what you know and go with what feels, like a good fit, and it felt like a good fit. So, it just that's where I am for now. I don't know if I'll always stay in this genre or if it'll change, but I really I think it's kind of for me, it's kind of a fun connection to the neuroscience as well, because with little kids, music is all about brain development, right? There's and I look at some of that stuff too, that like research piece of it. And like I said, like I've done baby and toddler music classes and preschool music classes. And there's a lot of like super interesting research connecting like music and movement to different kinds of development, language development, and like physical skill development, like gross motor skills and fine motor skills, and social and emotional development. Like it's all connected, and music is kind of like the glue that ties all of that together. So so for me, like when I'm performing, I'm also thinking about how I'm engaging them and how I'm like helping their brain development.
That's so cool.
So and then with the songs that my own songwriting, I mean, and that's especially true like when I'm working with really young kids, because sometimes they come as babies and toddlers to shows, but then as they get a little bit older, when they're like elementary age, then I'm also kind of like working these little lessons into the songs. So like, teaching them about giant and colossal squid or something about astronomy or what have you. But I always, try to be like, even if there's some like educational content in there, my goal is to make it fun and to make it like something that's, catchy and dancey, and something that's going to like make you feel like you're having a good time. Because I feel like we learn best when we're sort of fully engaged, and when there's like sort of an emotional connection or some like broader connection. I think that like takes you a little bit further. And so, I try to, like work in those positive messages and messages about life and that sort of thing. And then I get these fun stories, like people will come up and tell me, like, we've been listening to your song and we, listened to your Jupiter song. And then we went to the NASA website and we were looking up the moons of Jupiter or this and that. Or, like my 3-year-old dropped her cup the other day and she said, oh, that's because of gravity. And she knew that from your song. Like, whoa, that's great.
Oh, that's so cute.
So it gets in there, so I feel like, that's a fun thing. And I also think about like, maybe it's reaching some kids who maybe aren't fully engaged by school in some way, whether it's like a learning issue or something. And so sometimes like music can be a pathway for them to like a connection that maybe they wouldn't have explored. So I think that's like a nice thing that you can, a nice use of my music, hopefully for people.
Yeah.
And maybe even, during these times too, where it's like, we're separated, we need to like find ways to connect. So I think music helps us to feel a little more connected to people, even if we're doing it separately. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know what? This has been incredible. Like, I think that, I think it's such a, like I said, a breath of fresh air for me. Because I think another thing when I was listening to your music, I kind of had this feeling of like, man, I wish I could use that chord progression because I can, but I can't use it in my song because the lyrics are sad. So for me, I was like, it feels so like freeing because I think that like, as in my mind, having grown up with the music I grew up with, like watching like Out of the Box and like things like the Wiggles and stuff as like a kid.
Yeah.
I think those like really good feeling progressions are like what's in my head. And so that's kind of like very ingrained for me when I'm like writing melodies and stuff. And so like when I'm listening to the song, I just feel like, oh, this feels so free. Like you gotta just do what you feel. And so that was super awesome.
You should experiment with like using those sort of like major chord progressions with a song that's like a sad song and see how
I wonder how that would sound.
But we interesting try it. There might be like an interesting contrast or like, I feel like that might be a fun thing to play around with. Sometimes, have you ever seen those, people will like change a song from like major to minor. Yes. They'll do like, whatever Nirvana as like a major song. It sounds so funny. So it's like, it might be fun to like experiment with something that's like a sad content, but make it really happy, and make the music happy and see what that does. Maybe there's something to that.
That would be super cool if I can convince my band to do it.
At least play around with it and have fun. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, so you just have to play around at some point with, be like, all right, let's try this as a, C major key and see what happens.
Exactly. Oh man, that's super cool.
Yeah.
Well, you know what, Marsha, it's been awesome. So I think
so nice to talk to you. Yeah, this is really fun.
I think that this will probably go in a couple months. I have so many of these like backed up, but do you have anything coming out anytime soon that I should be aware of so that I can like release that concurrently, or am I kind of free for this to come out whenever?
You're pretty much free. Like so I've been writing for the next record and I'm like probably, I would say like 2/3 of the way there, but it's that was the same at the beginning of pandemic. Yeah. So like, I'm kind of a little bit stalled because I haven't been getting together with my band. I've only been like doing solo stuff from my living room, basically, so, and I remember like back in like February emailing my producer saying, hey, I want to get together to like chat about the next project and, sort of get it moving. And then of course, like we haven't been able to get together. It's
of course,
so there's nothing like, I'm not even like to the like plans for the recording stage yet for the next one. Okay. Although I do plan to like make more videos while I'm at home because I feel like I can do that, right? And I have a few that are like this sort of storybook type animation sort of. So I kind of feel like I have some more plans for some songs like that, and maybe we'll work with actually my daughter, who's the one who does like stage crew and things like that, and has that creative streak, is also like, she's pretty good with like video stuff. So we were talking about maybe playing around with some stop motion animation type stuff for so maybe we'll figure out how to do that.
Yeah, let's keep in touch and just figure out when it's going to work best, so it can like work with your promotional plans and all that.
Cool. But also, like, whenever it's good for you is fine. It doesn't have to be, I don't have to necessarily have anything coming out, because I don't know when I'll have the next thing.
Yeah, no rush.
So don't wait on, don't wait on it. But if I have something, I'll let you know, like, if any of that moves forward, because it might, like I said, sometimes it's like waiting, and all of a sudden it just happens. So,
right.
I may like have, in one weekend get something filmed. So you never know. That's one of my goals, is I'm trying to like keep things moving, is just sort of like build up my video content. And there's a bunch of songs that I have that I've always wanted to make videos for, so so I might try to follow through on some of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yay.
But let's definitely keep in touch. I'm gonna definitely check out, well, I have it up right now, but check out this indie collaborative thing. This seems cool.
Yeah, definitely do that. It's a fun organization. I think there's like a little application, but for them, basically, as long as you're like actually an indie musician, they will welcome you and be happy to have you, part of the group. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Nice people, very nice people. So
great. All right, this has been awesome.
Super.
I'd like to talk to you later after this. But,
yeah, anytime. And if you have any like follow-up questions or whatever, or if you want any other information or something, just let me know. And
yeah, for sure.
Answer anything. So yay.
I do. All right. Thank you so much.
Okay. Have a great rest of your weekend. Nice to talk with you.
All
okay. Right. Bye-bye.
Bye.